Behaviour Live, we are going to be looking at a problem that is that came in, that was left in one of the comments. But the reason I chose to focus on this one today is because it's a problem that quite a lot of Chihuahua owners actually have to deal with. But I need to give you a caveat, is I don't have a huge amount of information, so the advice I'm giving you is quite generic. Okay, when I do a behavior consult, which by the way you can book direct with me now, and I'll put a link in the comments below this video. But when I do a behavior consult and I'm creating a transformation plan for somebody's dog, I take a lot of information. There's a very detailed questionnaire that you would go through while I ask all sorts of information about your dog. And I would base a transformation plan on that information that you're giving me, because I don't have that, because this is a comment that was in a Facebook group. The advice I'm giving you is very, very generic. Anyway, so here we go. So the comment was, and it was quite short and sweet, was, I've got some notes down here as well. Wait, so if I'm kind of looking down, that's why. It's because I've got some notes here, because I can't remember everything. Right, okay. So the problem we were having is the dog is barking at everyone and then showing aggression when told off or when the owner intervenes. And again, this is quite common because Chihuahuas are quite often what we call active copers, and active coping dogs are the dogs that react when they're worried, as opposed to passive coping, which are dogs that either shut down, go stiff, or hide or whatever when they are worried about something. So a dog who is barking, or who's got their teeth out, or who is lunging, barking, or spinning on the lead, or whatever it is they're doing, that is active coping. Okay, so this dog is barking at people, and this would be called active coping. Now, the first thing to understand, and one of the most important things to understand, is this dog is not being aggressive. Okay, it's not being remotely aggressive. The barking is to get something that the dog is worried about to stay away. Something scary. I don't want you near me. Stay away. And it is extremely common for people to misunderstand this aggression, or to misunderstand this as aggression, but it comes from a place of fear. Barking like this is called an avoidance behavior. It's a behavior that your dog drops into in order to get something that they don't want to interact with, or they don't want to come any up close to them, to stay away. So it's an avoidance behavior. And what our dog is telling you is, I'm worried about this. I don't like this. So then how you handle that as an owner is really, really important. And if you are telling the dog off, whatever that might look like, it might just be, no, 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 don't do that, don't do that. Or, I mean, that's the scope of when I'm telling a dog off, it can be quite wide. But the dog is telling off. So what you're communicating to your dog, if you tell the dog off, is, I am worried about this, and then my owner becomes aggressive, which for a dog, you can understand your dog is probably going to be looking to you for reassurance. Sorry, I do have a bit of a speech issue, so please excuse me if I appear to stutter. Your dog is looking for you to reassurance, because obviously you're their everything. So I am worried about this. They look for you for reassurance, and then you become aggressive yourself towards the dog. You can see how that would be confusing. And in addition to that, that also adds another layer of anxiety, another layer of stress. So this thing happens that the dog doesn't like, and then my owner goes all strange and funny and aggressive as well. So that's another layer of anxiety for your dog. So let's have a look at an analogy. Let's assume you are worried about spiders. You don't like spiders, and then a massive, great big spider runs at you and you scream, and then someone who's with you kind of screams at you and pushes you towards the spider. At no point is that going to help you get over your fear of spiders, and at no point is that going to help you calm down? So the key analogy, or the key takeaway here is understanding that your dog is barking at the person, the other dog, the bicycle, the car, the lorry, the crisp packet blowing in the wind from a place of fear. Okay, it's not coming in from I want to dominate, which is, we hear that a lot. So the labels people put on this type of behavior, again, are quite common. So they can be, especially when they're dealing with dogs, it can be, oh, the Chihuahua's trying to dominate the other dog. I hear that a lot. They think they're a Rottweiler and it's small dog syndrome. He's protecting you. That's another one that comes in a lot. That is not what is happening at all. When your dog is having a meltdown like this, it's highly unlikely that the dog even knows you're there, okay? Because they are in their fear brain. They are thinking with their amygdala. They are not focusing on you. They probably don't even know that you're there. And this is why when you try and train at this point, when your dog is having a meltdown like this, that you're going to fail, because your dog is not in the right headspace to learn. It's again, and using another analogy, it's like trying to communicate and teach something to a toddler who's having a tantrum. Okay, it can't be done. The dog is not in the right headspace, and pretty much whatever it is you're going to try and teach the dog at this point is just going to cause more stress and more anxiety. Okie doke, let me just turn my notes over. Okie doke, so how does it happen? Okay, how has our dog got into this situation where they are actually worried by people and they're finding people making them anxious? So one of the key drivers of this sort of behavior is this out of date socialization advice that is still really firmly in the narrative around dog training. And this is just not, it's not just relevant to Chihuahuas, although it is slightly more relevant to Chihuahuas because they're so small and they have a different set of anxieties. But it hangs around all dogs, and even some trainers still teach this, okay, that in order to socialize your dog, you need to take them before they're 16 weeks old, because there's apparently some kind of magical fear window that's going to close at 16 weeks. And if you don't do all this before they're 16 weeks, then you're doomed to a Chihuahua that's going to be aggressive. Not the case. If that was the case, you'd never be able to rehabilitate an older dog, okay? And I have done that hundreds of times. Anyway, so one of the key drives for this type of behavior is this out of date advice, which is you need to take your Chihuahua to lots of places. You need to take your Chihuahua up to people. You need to have your Chihuahua handled by people. You need to have them petted and fed by people. Okay. And you have to do all this when the dog is really, really young. Now, why this doesn't work, and this is one of the key drivers for this type of anxious behavior, is the dog may not have the skills to cope with that situation. You're putting the dog in a situation that they really don't have the skills for, and you're putting your dog under quite a lot of pressure. If you take them up to a stranger and you say, okay, can you give my dog a treat because I want them to learn that people are okay, the dog might be very food motivated, and he might want the food more than he doesn't want the interaction with that person. So again, it's like your spider going, oh, here, human, here's a piece of chocolate. Are you going to come and get it? And you might go, I quite like this. And you get up towards the spider to get your chocolate. And then all of a sudden, you just become totally overwhelmed with anxiety around this interaction. And for a dog, that could look, all of a sudden, it could flip. So it could be going towards this person. And then it becomes over emotional. It could bite. It could just start barking. It could any number of things. Okay. This is called a conflict of emotion. It wants the food, but it doesn't want the interaction. It's luring. Okay. Now we do use luring, which is basically, where's my little where's my little beanie Ted, to use this as an example. So luring is when we give a dog food and we lure it along with food like that. Okay, people quite often do this when they're trying to harness shape. Don't do that when you're harness shaping. And that's called luring. Now, we do use luring in training, but we don't use it in behavior issues for this reason, because it's getting the dog into a situation that it clearly does not want to be in with the promise of food. Okay, now I could go off down a rabbit hole telling you why luring is a bad idea, but we probably haven't got time for that. Anyway, it's kind of lost the thread a bit of what I'm saying. So taking your dog up to lots of people, getting your people to feed your dog, is putting your dog under pressure, is making your dog anxious. And then when they see someone, they're concerned that they're going to have to be involved in an interaction with them. They start to bark and they go into avoidance behavior. You might still push them into this interaction with this person, because you think if the more you do it, the more they're going to get used to it. That's not the case. All that's happening here is you're just rehearsing the dog's anxiety. And what happens is this starts to escalate. So the dog then barks at predictions of people. And it might escalate beyond that, where it just barks literally at everything because it's concerned about what is going to happen next to it. Okay. So the upshot here is ignore, please ignore this socialization advice that goes around that says you have to take your dog to lots of places, take your dog up to lots of people. That is not what we're looking for when we socialize a dog. True socialization is your dog ignores distractions. Your dog ignores other dogs. I see you over there, but you're none of my business. That is true socialization. And we need to drop this idea from the training narrative that taking our dog up to loads of other dogs is a good thing. And that's what we want to do. Okie doke. So for this dog, obviously, that's a little bit too late. And we're actually in the situation where it is now barking at other dogs. And what are we going to do about it? How are we going to resolve it? Now, technically, again, I don't know anything about this dog. I don't know much about this dog. In fact, I know nothing about this dog. So again, the caveat is I am giving very general advice. Okay. And also, I am a games-based trainer. We use games to shape the dog's behavior, which is why I'm going to tell you, I'll explain a little bit more about that. But we are going to be using games to rewire how the dog thinks, but this has to come initially from you as an owner to start with. So one of the things we need to work on, this dog is obviously very worried and very concerned, and every time it goes out it is rehearsing this behavior of barking and lunging and being anxious around other dogs. So the first thing I would do is we need to stop this rehearsal. You cannot resolve an issue for a dog if it's still practicing it. In the same way, you can't give up smoking if you're still smoking. Okay, it's the same principle. So we need to stop the rehearsal of it. Now, there's different ways you can do that now, and depending on your dog. But the first thing I would suggest you do is you stop taking the dog out and putting it in the situation where it feels the need that it has to defend itself like this. Okay. And instead of taking the dog out, you work at home on the dog's confidence and optimism. A confident and optimistic dog is a dog who can have different situations thrown at it and it has the skills to cope. It's not, oh, this is bad. Oh, this is bad. You have a dog that goes, yeah, okay, yeah, I can handle that. Okay, yeah, because it's optimistic. It's not concerned about every sound, everything that moves. So you would work on their optimism by playing games and building a play brain. A play brain, again, is an optimistic brain. And we do that at home, and we do this when the dog is calm. Okay. So we have some games on our YouTube channel. So I would be playing, we have a free little challenge actually, which is a socialization, which is a focus challenge, which you can join, which has got some really nice basic games on it of teaching proximity, teaching your dog to stay with you, teaching your dog to look at you and focus on you. I would also play games, little food flick games, scatter feed games, and catch games with food. And these are all joyful games that build optimism for your dog, all in the time that you would be taking your dog out. Now, obviously, if you haven't got a garden, then you're going to have to find somewhere nice and quiet to do that with, where they're not going to be constantly facing the thing that it is that they're really concerned about. Now, a couple of these games need to be very specific games, and these are on our YouTube channel. One of them is a rewind. Okay, a rewind is a game where if you walk backwards, your dogs will fold and follow you. Okay, mine are really good at this, and this has been one of the most useful games that I've ever taught them. Now, it's people go, okay, well, why don't you use recall? Well, recall is different. Recall assumes your dog has gone somewhere, and you are then having to try and persuade them to come back to you. A rewind is your dog is already in proximity. They haven't gone very far from you. And a rewind is you see something ahead. You don't want your dog to get involved in it. So you just walk backwards. Your dogs will fold and walk with you, and then you turn around the right way and off you go with your dogs in a different direction. Okay, so that's a really good one. That is on our YouTube channel. Another one is a find it game where you would drop food into the ground and you would tell the dog to look for it. Okay, so you go find it, and then the dogs will automatically start hunting for that food. Now, these games are really useful. That the find it game is a fantastic game because it pays into a dog's love of scavenging for food and for hunting, because that's part of a dog's natural behavior. So it flips the dog from a fear brain into a play brain situation. And when a dog is playing, the fear brain is going to be shut down. Okay, so these games are really important for you to teach your dog at home when you're nice and calm, and you build it up slowly, and then gently you increase the level of the environment. So you would play it in a neutral environment at home, and then you might play it slightly maybe further down the garden away from the house. I don't know what your setup is. And then you might play it in a field, etc. Then you might play it with a dog in the distance over there, depending on your dog's skill. Okay, so you would play these little games, and what we're teaching our dog here is that when you see another dog, I don't need to interact with them. It's nothing to do with me. So we teach these games at home when the dog is calm, and we teach the dogs this instead of taking them out for a walk, so they are not rehearsing the situation. I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't, just put something in the comments and I'll come back to you. So another thing is do not put your dog into this situation. Okay, no dog should have to interact with another person. Okay, it's not a natural behavior for them to do that. Some dogs are more sociable. Our Minnie loves everybody, will quite happily go up to somebody else. Arlo, not so much. Prince and Macy, not at all. They don't like strangers. They don't want strangers looming over them. So one of the things that we need to do is we need to advocate for our dog. So when someone says, can I pet your dog? No. Okay. Now, sometimes that can feel a little bit rude, but you have to look at this from your dog's point of view. How does my dog feel about that? It's probably not going to like that. And this is what you need to guard. You need to guard your dog's optimism. They need to see the world through rose-colored glasses, and people looming over them and touching their heads. Don't touch your dog's head. They don't like it. Is not going to do that. So do not put your dog into situations at all. They do not have to interact with other dogs if they don't want to. Okie doke. So when you are out and about and you see a person in the distance, keeping your dog under threshold, you will start playing games with your dog. Now another good one is a zigzag run. Again, you must have taught this to your dog when your dog is calm. don't try and teach it to your dog when the dog is kicking off, because again, remember where their head is and their arousal level is when that's happening. They are not going to be able to learn. But if you've taught that to your dog when they're calm and it's a really nice, strong neural pathway, they will be able to do that when they get their cue. So a zigzag run is simply when you start to run off in zigzags, not necessarily in a straight line, and the dog is, oh, this is a game, I know what to do. And you've got your dog moving away from that person or the interaction that you don't want at the same energy level as they are would be if they were having a meltdown, because it's very difficult for you to have you can hear my dog's barking in the background. I'm guessing someone's knocking at the door. If they're barking at something and they're upset about it, then and you go sit down, okay, that's quite punishing for the dog, because the dog's energy level is really high, and they're going to find being still and sitting down quite punishing them for them. So if you create a game that matches that energy, you can move them away from the thing that you don't want them to get involved in. So one, they're learning that they don't have to interact with it, and two, they are moving away at the same energy level that their emotions are at. And then once you're safely away from it, then you can bring their arousal level down with a find it game, or with a whatever it is that's working for your dog. So I'm just going to grab a drink. Quick. Sorry. So we are teaching our dog when we're doing this that they do not have to interact with other people, which will bring their arousal down around people and will help stop this prediction of anxiety. It teaches them that people are not a threat. And it gives you and the dog something to do. Okay, so rather than you sit your dog there and it's all really tight and really stressful, the dog is moving away. The dog is having fun. The dog is just in a play brain rather than a fear brain mentality. Now, the other thing I don't know about this inquiry, if you like, is whether it's at home. Okay, so I'm going to cover that as well, because this did also come in as a question that my dog is very concerned when people come in the house. Now that again is a very misinterpreted behavior where people go, oh, he's just protecting the house, or he's just protecting you, and it's not doing anything like that. Okay, doors are naturally quite worrying for any dog, because so much energy happens when people come in. Okay, even if it's just shopping, you're coming in with the shopping, or you're coming in with visitors, there's a lot of an energy shift at the front door, which dogs that pushes their arousal level up. So again, think about the principles that we've talked about and how you can use that to resolve this issue in the house. Okay, so you've got people coming in the front door. What can you do to, one, stop rehearsal of your dog getting involved in the situation? And that should be fairly easy to do. You can use baby gates, little fold out, whatever. You can use anything. Just cut off in general, day-to-day access to the front door. When you know you've got visitors coming, get them to text ahead, move the dogs into the kitchen or whatever, on a snuffle mat or a snuffle ball or whatever, giving the dogs a job. Just push the door up and get your visitors in. Settle your visitors down with a please don't touch the dogs, don't interact with the dogs, don't anything with the dogs. Settle your visitors down. You're always going to get one, oh, dogs always love me. Okay, the way to do this is give your people a job as well. Maybe give them a drink to hold so that they can't actually touch the dogs, or give them some food or whatever. So you've got your dog, your visitors in, you settle your dogs down. If your dogs are calm enough, you can then introduce them into the situation when your visitors are settled. You could have your dogs on an indoor harness and line, because you will find that being tethered calms a dog. It brings their arousal level down. You could reintroduce your dog on an indoor harness and line. If your dog is not going to settle down, don't put them in that situation. Okay, maybe settle them in their crate, maybe settle them in another room with a long-term chew. If your dog is not coping with it, then take that as information, and you know you've got some work to do on that problem. Okay, but you do that work when the dog is calm, not in the situation when you're having a party and you've kind of got all your visitors there. Okie doke. And actually, this came in as a query. When my visitors leave, it's very common for everyone's settled down, and everyone's just doing the thing, and your visitors get up to leave, and instantly they start moving. Your dog's arousal level shoots back up again, and they're trying to police this movement with the Chihuahua nip to the ankles, because they do like to do that. So they're barking at people when they get up, and they're nipping the ankles or whatever, trying to police that movement. So just reverse what you did when they came in. So move your dog away from the situation. You know when your visitors are going to go. Have your dog on an indoor harness again, so you've got them under control and they're tethered, or just move them away and out of the situation so they have got something positive and calming to do. Okie doke. So always think about how you can manage it. Always think about, oh, there's a fruit fly, how you can manage it, and always think about how what is actually happening for your dog, and how you can make it okay for your dog, how you can bring their arousal level down. So I hope that was helpful. If you've got any questions about this, then please put them in the comments below. If you want one-to-one help with your Chihuahua, you can now book an online consultation direct. So, and I will put the link to that in the comments. If you want to join our monthly Chihuahua training program, where we look at all aspects of Chihuahua behavior, and I will guide you through dealing with it, rebuilding your walk, reducing reactivity, etc., then you can join us at Chihuahua School, which is £36 a month. You can come and go as you please. There's no contract. And I will put the link below for that as well, so you can check it out and actually have a look at that. So again, hope that was helpful. If you've got any questions, put them in the comments. And yeah, I look forward to speaking with you again soon. Bye bye for now.